In this video, we will be learning about making comparisons. How do we compare two people or things? First, we need to look at whether they are equal or different. To show that two people or things are equal, we can use the word as, followed by an adjective or adverb, and then another as. The example on screen uses as tall as to show that Luke and his father are the same height. When comparing two people or things that are different, instead of simply adding the word not before the first structure, we can use a comparative adjective or adverb plus the word than. Here is an example. Luke is taller than his sister. This sentence uses the comparative adjective taller. Therefore, we know that Luke's height is greater than his sister's. How do we compare more than two people or things? If we are comparing 3 or more items, we must use a different structure. For example, we can use the article the with a superlative adjective or adverb, and then the preposition in or of to tell the reader more about the comparison. Here is how this structure can be used in a sentence. This sentence means that this temple is older than all the other temples in Hong Kong. As well as in and of, the superlative adjective or adverb can also be followed by a relative clause. Look at the second example on the screen. The writer compares a film with all the other films they have ever seen, and considers the film being discussed the best. How do we form comparative and superlative versions of adjectives? For most adjectives of one syllable, we add er for the comparative and est for the superlative. For example, the comparative form of the adjective small is smaller, and the superlative form is smallest. However, sometimes we need to double the final letter of the word before adding er or est. For example, when changing the adjective hot. Or we can simply add r or st to the word, as is the case with the adjective nice. With two-syllable adjectives, usually we use more or most before them to form the comparative or superlative. If a word ends in er or y, we can add er and est, as we do for one-syllable adjectives. Here is an example. The adjective easy ends in y, so it becomes easier when used as a comparative, and easiest when used as a superlative. Now let's look at the adjective simple. We can add the suffixes er and est to make the comparative and superlative forms, or we can add more and most before it. Adjectives with 3 or more syllables usually take more and most. Here are 2 examples. The adjective interesting becomes more interesting in the comparative and most interesting in the superlative. Likewise, the adjective confusing becomes more confusing when used as a comparative and most confusing when used as a superlative. Now let's look at how to form the comparative and superlative forms of adverbs. The form that adverbs take often depends on the ending of the adverb. However, some adverbs take the same form as adjectives. For example, the adverb fast. The comparative version of fast is faster, while the superlative version is fastest. Now let's take a look at another example. If an adverb ends with ly, then the corresponding comparative and superlative forms take more and most. For example, The adverb quickly is formed by adding ly to the end of the adjective quick. Therefore, when we form the comparative of the adverb, we have to add more to it, making it more quickly. Similarly, the superlative is most quickly. Although the comparative and superlative forms of many adjectives and adverbs take the forms we have looked at above, some have irregular forms. Let's take a look at some of them now. First, the comparative form of the adjective good and the adverb well is better, and their superlative form is best. The adjective bad is also irregular. When used as a comparative, it becomes worse, and when used as a superlative, it becomes worst. Let's take a look at another example. The adjective far. This adjective can become either farther or further when used as a comparative, and farthest or furthest when used as a superlative. Where do we use comparisons? We use comparisons in all forms of writing, but we often find them in argumentative texts, as well as in reports on findings. Let's practice reading. Can you identify the words or structures used for comparisons that you learnt in this video in the following passage? Here are the answers: shyest, most quiet, more confident, and as tall as me. Did you get them right? Now let's practice listening. Question 1. Listen to sentences A and B and decide which sentence involves a comparison. A. The station is not as far away as I thought. B. The station is close to our hotel. The answer is A. The station is not as far away as I thought. Question 2. Listen to sentences C and D and decide which sentence shows that Sandy runs faster than James. C. James runs twice as fast as Sandy. D. James does not run as fast as Sandy. I repeat. C. James runs twice as fast as Sandy. D. James does not run as fast as Sandy. The answer is D. James does not run as fast as Sandy. Let's practice writing. Fill in the blanks in the sentence below using the appropriate forms of the adjectives given in brackets. The answers are now on the screen. The first blank should be filled in with harder, because the sentence is comparing the test to what the speaker had expected. The second blank should be filled in with the most difficult, because we know from the relative clause afterwards that the speaker is talking about a superlative event. How did you get on? After writing, let's practice speaking. Read the following prompts and make comparisons accordingly. Say your sentences out loud. Prompt 1. Compare the ages of two of your friends. Prompt 2. Select a team performance you have seen recently in a sport of your choice, and compare the performances of 3 of the players.